Welcome to the 24th floor. I'm Richard Denson alongside Ruben Diaz. The NBA season is officially over. We have crowned a new NBA champion. We're going to touch on that, but the NBA excitement isn't over because we are so close to the NBA draft.
Yeah, we've all been talking about it for months. Who's going to go where, who should go where, but more importantly, who do the Memphis Grizzlies need and or want? That's the question.
So in this market, there are two people who are as reliable as a cast iron skillet when it comes to any news regarding the Memphis Grizzlies. Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian, friend of the program, and this man, our guest, you can't call him a friend anymore. He's more like a brother of the program. He's the co-host of the Locked On Grizzlies podcast that you can catch right here on 24+, and he is the beat writer of the Memphis Grizzlies for the Commercial Appeal. Welcome back to the show, DaMichael Cole. What up, man?
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Nice to have you here. Let's get rolling with the burning question. There are burning questions all over. The whole thing's burning, really.
The whole thing.
But everybody wants to know what's going on with Ja.
Man, what's going on with Ja? Well, let's start here. Nothing's changed from the previous stance, right? In the previous stance, what we know at this point, the reports out there have indicated since January, where we heard, the Commercial Appeal, that the Grizzlies were listening to trade offers on Ja Morant. That has not changed. So I know a lot has changed with the team. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been traded. The roster started to look different. You have a big draft coming up where you can get a potential top 3 pick. But at the end of the day, they're still listening to offers on Ja. At this point, it's still a matter of when more than if.
A matter of when more than if. Now, what have I always thought about this draft, and what I tell Ruben is is this draft basically, are you picking your Ja Morant replacement? Or are you just trusting in the process, getting young guys and hoping somebody emerges out of the young core?
Yeah, so to me, the important things of a rebuild is you're not trying to replace players. I don't think OKC, after they lost Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, said, okay, let's replace those guys with Shai Gilgeous and then Jalen Williams. Let's try to replace him with Russell Westbrook or anything like that. It just happens. So what you do is you try to just assimilate as much quality talent as you can. And to me, you figure out putting the pieces together later. At the end of the day, you need good value for anything. You can't say, oh, okay, we need a point guard. Oh, we need a shooting guard. Throw all that out the window. We need good players.
You need hoopers.
Yeah, you need hoopers. And if you can get hoopers, you figure the rest out later. Okay, both of them play point guard, but guess what? We can figure that part out. We can figure that out later. At the end of the day, right now, you need high-quality talent. You look around the league, look at all these teams. Most of these teams have players who've been in all-star games or will be all-stars. You look at the Grizzlies roster, you're saying there's the possibility, but there's no for certain. So you're hoping in this draft you kind of just you get a good start on that new direction. And I think that's what they're kind of focused on more than kind of that older era of, like Ja, Jaren, and those guys. Like, it's a turning of the page. You're bringing in new, you're changing kind of the culture and resetting.
That was going to be my other question is when you're bringing in, because at this point, you're setting a new foundation.
Right.
You're setting a new foundation and saying, because you're going to get a talented guy at one of those, when you're getting somebody.
You're getting somebody really good.
And so now your goal is just, if we get that one guy, what can we put around that guy? What else is going to be open and available? And how do you change the culture from what it's been over the last, year and a half? I wouldn't even say 2 years, but maybe the last year and a half. And is that kind of where the Grizzlies are mindset-wise?
Yeah, and you change the culture. It's almost like, when you got to smell somewhere. You change the smell, you got to rip everything up. You got to take everything up that's related to that. So I think in this case, the Grizzlies are saying, hey, look, we've had players who've meant a lot to this organization, like Ja Morant, like Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane in the last couple years. And those players are pretty much gone now. Ja is still remaining, but again, we expect something to happen in the near future with Ja. So with all that being factored in, you bring in these new players. Those new players have new personalities. So you're bringing in those new personalities, and the structure, the culture is going to take care of itself because you also still have a fairly new coach. This is only year 2 of Terrence Isolo that's about to kick in coming up. So you have a new coach. You have kind of new players that you're going to be centered around. And even the young players who are going to be kind of the focal points, they haven't been here long.
No.
Zach Edey's going into year 3. Cedric Howard's going into year 2. You're going to have potentially 2 high-end first-round picks this year that you can put into that equation. So the culture, the identity is going to take care of itself within that new group.
I think the big question with this Ja Morant thing is why? Because when I'm talking to Memphians and I'm talking to Grizzlies fans, they seem to kind of feel like the end is near for Ja Morant. But the question they ask me all the time is why? And I have my take. I think it's because of the injury histories and the contract, but you've seen it from the beginning, from when he first got here, and you've kind of watched this thing. Why do you think now, no matter what, it just seems to be the end?
Well, it comes down to what do you value, what do you want, and just what's important. And you look at it from both sides, right? You got to look at both perspectives. And you start with Ja Morant's side, and you mentioned contractual things and things like that. Ja Morant has 2 years remaining on his current contract, roughly $87 million. So when you look at it from that perspective, if you're Ja Morant, considering the injuries, considering your age, you probably want some type of long-term security. Yeah. And he can be extended. Like last season, he could have got a 2-year extension. Now this year, he's eligible for a 3-year extension. That could be worth a whole lot of money to make him the highest
He's not
paid.
getting it here, but he can get it somewhere.
Exactly.
I don't even know if he can get it somewhere else, though.
Yeah, the Grizzlies aren't going to give him that. So, and I think of it from the standpoint of Ja Morant has been the franchise guy here. Ja Morant, for the most part, has gotten pretty much everything that he's wanted. And this is the first time if he's went to the table like last offseason, you get told no.
Yep.
I think that does something to your ego a little bit.
That's a telling thing in pro
sports. Exactly. And then you flip it to the Grizzlies side of it, right? And you're thinking about what's next for them. Well, guess what? The Grizzlies know how good Ja is. We've seen that because they've tried to build the team around him for year after year after year. But just go look at the previous years. What have we seen? We saw Ja play roughly, 20 games this season?
Yeah.
Last season.
After saying all 82.
Last season he played, I think it was 50 games. 50 or 52 was the exact number. But the thing is, I believe it was 50. And he didn't play more than 6 consecutive games at any point. So it was 5 games here, injury, 2-3 games here, injury. There was no built-up consistency within that. The season before that, played 9 games. Yes. So you look over the last 3 seasons, the player that you want to rely on the most to build your roster, you can't rely on him to be available. And it limits you a little bit because then you go into that series against OKC like last season and your roster's built around Ja, he's not available. And then you blow a 20, 30-point lead in the second half after he helped build that lead when he got hurt, as you mentioned. So from an organizational standpoint, you got to think financially, and you got to think smart. You say, hey, look, we're paying this guy $87 million over the next 2 seasons. So that's a lot of money, and you need to win to make that number, seem like it's a good number, and it's not happening.
Best ability is your availability.
Yeah. So the other issue that you're running into, is from a bit. I think sometimes people forget one thing.
Yeah.
Professional sports is business.
It's business.
Well, it's business. And so you're paying somebody $87 million over the next 2 years, and you want them available for several reasons. Fans show up more when they know they're playing.
Yep.
It builds the excitement in the city.
Yep.
All these things that come with your star player playing, not just about winning and losing, because winning and losing is great. You want that. You want the wins, right? So now the question becomes, where does Ja go? Because that is, to me, the hardest part. Several people I saw the other day that the Suns said, "Nah, we're not in on it." Like,
right, they got enough guards.
But there's just so many. But he's such a star.
Yeah,
he's such a star that you could take a star like that and, like we said, you can put him in the mix. But where can you put him in the mix now?
I mean, well, Phoenix kind of went through that already when they got the KD and Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, so they don't want to just chase stars necessarily because that doesn't necessarily translate to winning.
But who is going to chase him is the question.
Yeah, again, this is two things you can look at this one from. One, the teams that we know have been interested, and then 2, the teams that make sense. To your point, the Suns were a team that made sense. I personally never heard that there was high interest from the Phoenix Suns throughout this process. But when people thought about the Phoenix Suns, they said, oh, the Suns have Devin Booker at shooting guard, Grayson Allen at shooting guard, Royce O'Neal can play some shooting guard. Jalen Green plays shooting guard. They got all these shooting guards, but they don't have a point guard. And now you got Jalen Green and Devin Booker playing point guard. So how do you fix that? You bring in Ja Morant to kind of it makes sense roster-wise. So breaking this down, I think from the standpoint of the teams that we know that have piqued interest in Ja before going back to the trade deadline, Miami Heat is one team. Obviously, everything with the Heat starts with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
100%.
So I wouldn't expect the Heat to be a team that's going to move on Ja Morant really fast because they're trying to figure out the Giannis thing first. If we can get Giannis, it is what it is. But if we don't get Giannis, all right, let's check back on that. All right, let's pick up the phones back there. So I think that's kind of the Miami part of it. The Sacramento Kings were another team. There's been some interest there, but you wonder what happens now because Sacramento has the 7th pick.
Yeah,
you're looking at
they'll
5,
be able to take one of them guards.
You're looking at 5 to 8 range. It's straight point guards in that range. So again, that's one. It's going to be curious to see if Sacramento still has the same interest. I would keep an eye on the Brooklyn Nets.
I said them, but
keep an eye on the
it just-
Brooklyn Nets.
I couldn't get my
From the cap
feet out,
space,
hands all
from the
around
cap
it.
space standpoint, they have to spend some money. They got all these young guys on this roster. They got Michael Porter, who's on a decent sized contract. But the NBA, you have salary floors and whatnot. They're gonna have to spend some money. And Ja Morant has 2 years left. They could bring him in as an option to say, hey, let's see how it works. Zaire Williams was drafted by the Grizzlies in 2021, I believe it was 2022, and Ja Morant had a great relationship with him. So I think that's one that makes sense. Brooklyn,
Financially and roster-wise.
and roster-wise.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm rolling with Brooklyn.
Do you think Ja wants to go to a major city?
I just think he wants to go where he can get paid. Look at Trae Young.
Ja wants to hoop, I think, at the end of the day. Ja, to me, in the time that I've covered him, you've learned that he's just a basketball guy. All the other stuff, the glitz and glamours is extra. He just wants to play basketball. It's that simple.
So getting back to the draft, obviously, this is the highest the Grizz have picked in years.
Yeah, 2019.
On this program, we've kind of basically said the consensus is Cam Boozer, but I was telling Ruben before we started here, once again, there's some noise about Darren Peterson. And now the latest noise is that Darren Peterson, if he's not taking number one, which right now the consensus is A.J. DeBonsa, that he doesn't want to go to Utah. He hasn't met with them, hasn't worked out with them, and he could come to Memphis. Now, I'm a big Darren Peterson guy. I've been a big Darren Peterson guy since day one. I have said if the Grizz get him, there will probably be a parade in this city within a decade. That's how much I believe in Darren Peterson. Ruben doesn't believe in him.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm not sold on the dude.
Wow, I've been high on Darren Peterson all the way through myself. I don't put as much stock as others do when we talk about guys' interest level in college at this point, because at the end of the day, I'm not that far removed from college, and when I went to school with some of those dudes, I see the interest level in that time in college. Like you're using it as a ladder step to get you to the NBA. And very early on at the collegiate level, Darren Peterson proved that he was league ready. So from that point on, like if he wanted to coast, there's not as much value in the risk of playing at the collegiate level as the reward of being the top pick in the NBA draft. I'm very high on Darren Peterson. I think a big part of the interest in Darren Peterson to Memphis to me, because you're splitting hairs with the top three talents.
You really
top four too. But when you talk about AJ, you talk about Darren Peterson, when you talk about Cam Boozer, you're splitting hairs. But what makes Darren Peterson stand out to me is the positional versatility.
Yes.
He's played on the ball throughout the preps for the most part. And then when he got to Kansas, because of injury things and whatnot, I'm sure that's probably why you're concerned a little bit. The injury stuff, he played at Kansas off the ball, and he thrived in that role. And if the Grizzlies are able to get him at number 3, you put yourself in position to the second tier of that board. The Grizzlies have picked at number 16. You ask yourself, what's the deepest position from 10 to 20? It's the power forward position. That's the position where I think you have at least 3 guys who are starter caliber. You got Merez Johnson, you got Hans Steinbeck, you got Yaxel Lindenberg. If you draft a power forward at number 3, a Cam Boozer or Caleb Wilson, you kind of put yourself out of the equation at 16 for those type of guys. So to put it simply, if you get Darren Peterson, you put yourself in a better position to get 2 starters in this draft than coming out with 1 starter and then probably just a really good player at 16.
So to be clear, my issue with Darren Peterson is not about his skill level.
Okay, right.
That's not the question. The dude can hoop, he can shoot, he can handle the ball, he is extremely high IQ, the dude can play. That's not the question. My question is, how much does he want to play? And my beef was like the prima donna version of it, right? We all know you're the projected number 1 pick, but rather than go out there and put on for the team every day, you're checking yourself out of games. And Bill Self is your coach. Come on, that's a Hall
One
of
of the greatest
Fame.
to ever do it.
And
National champ.
when you're looking at Bill Self saying, I'm coming out of the game, and Bill Self is saying, what are we doing? Then I'm like, come on, bro. Like, to me, that's a little bit much. And he ain't even really. That's my question, is what happens when you put him at the professional level? Does it become more of a prima donna, harder to handle, or does he buckle in and say, okay, I made it, now I'm going to work?
It's a fair assessment. Like, I'm not knocking that at all. My thing is, when a guy is that talented, personally, I'm willing to take the risk. And again, you got to do the interviews and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he's saying the right things in interviews. Maybe he's saying the wrong things in interviews. That'll give them kind of clarity on which direction to go. But if he's saying the right things in the interview, then what I want to get out of it is I want to get that, okay, look, this is a guy, he knew very on in his collegiate career that he had already
secured a spot.
He secured his spot. I mean, he was a star very early in the season at Kansas. So at that point, you're weighing the risk versus the reward. There isn't much reward that comes with playing 30 minutes while you're dealing with a hamstring, issue at that point of the season.
So, did he really have cramps though?
It
Can we just keep it
crazy,
real?
man.
Can we just keep it real? Did the guy really have cramps? Or I've been watching and covering sports my whole life.
Yep.
I have never seen a dude come off the floor with cramps and not get treatment.
Yeah.
I ain't never seen a dude come off the floor with cramps and just go sit down.
Just mail it in.
Yeah. I've seen people come off the floor and have to get treatment.
It's a red flag, but the other prospects have red flags too. And to me, I feel like it's manageable. Like when you get to the league, especially early on, you're going to have that desire. What I would be more worried about is something super long term. Is when he gets paid. That second contract.
Does he stay committed?
Does he still have that same? But again, if he gets paid, then that means he was doing something right those first 4 years. So
valid argument. So I'm just that was my only red flag.
So final takes, gentlemen. As we are, draft is on June 23rd here on ABC 24, shameless plug. When the Grizzlies turn in that card at number 3, number 16, who are we thinking that they're taking? DaMichael, you go first. Number 3, number 16.
Cam Boozer at number 3 is who I think the guy will be. I think, look, they definitely could go either way, but I think the board will make the decision for them, and they'll go with Cam Boozer. Number 16, I want to go point guard here, but I like Cameron Carr.
Ooh, okay. Joe said that.
If he's going to be there, that's a question. But the Grizzlies will probably try to move up, and if they try to move up, I could see a LeBaron Fallon, being a guy.
But Alabama.
But I'm going to say Cameron Carr. He's a wing. Compare him with Cedric Coward. Super athletic, 42.5-inch max vertical. The Grizzlies need some athleticism, some more juice, especially if you're losing a guy like Ja. So I'm going Cameron Carr, Cam Boozer.
Ruben?
You know me, I'm going Cam Boozer at 3, and I have been from the very beginning. I just think he's so dependable and solid, and didn't really get to show everything he can do in college because of the position he was forced to play in college. I think he can be a little bit more versatile in the NBA. I don't have a pick in the in 16 because I think there's going to be movement for them. I feel like there's going to be so much movement. It's going to be hard to guess who they're going to take with that second pick.
I agree. I mean, I want Darren Peterson to go at 3. I think at the end of the day, Danny Ainge says he doesn't care. Same thing he did with Ace Bailey. He's like, hey, we're still going to take you, show up. So I'm going to go with Cam Boozer just as my chalk pick. But 16, I like Christian Anderson from Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I really like him.
Yep. All right, great draft no matter what. So you can't really lose.
Exactly. You can watch it right here on ABC 24. DaMichael, we always appreciate
Man,
it.
anytime.
Big dog, great job. Appreciate you.
Ruben, you take us out.
All right, let's go ahead and take another break. We come back. We have much more to talk about. Let me go to this right here.
Give him a 1-shot, 2-shot.
Yeah. In fact, Richard has something he wants to talk about.
Well, coming up after the break, I sit down with Carly Lyons from the Memphis Grizzlies to talk about the team's draft party, summer camps, other events planned throughout the offseason. Stay with us. More 24 Floors coming up after the break.